Good morning, mga classmate. I'm Lowen Magdato, your classmate in managerial accounting. I'm going to report today the assumption in cost volume profit analysis. So this is our activity 1. We'll be discussing the multi-product analysis, assumption in CVP analysis, and the operating leverage. So let's go with cost volume profit analysis. So what is cost volume profit analysis? It is a systematic method of examining the effects of changes in organization's volume of activity. In other words, CBP analysis help in analyzing the effects of change in sales volume or sales mix or fixed cost on the profits of the firm. What are the usage of cost volume profit analysis in managerial decisions? So most of us now are managers and supervisor in our respective areas of responsibility. So for me, it's very important that we apply this in our current jobs or professions. This could be used in number one, the product pricing. So you'd know what would be the right price for your products. And number two, accepting or rejecting sales orders. So with the CBP analysis, you would know if you would accept a certain project or you would deny it based on your profit. And also, number three is what product lines to promote, especially on your multi-product. Number four is what level of output is required to achieve a set level of net profit. With this, we could know what are the level of output is required to achieve a set level of net profit. So we would know how many products should be produced so that we could achieve our set level net of profit. And of course, last but not the least is the feasibility of profit plan. So we would know how to do planning in profit with different tools in cost volume profit analysis. And with this, let's go with the assumption in CVP analysis. In a nutshell, CVP analysis assume the following. Number one, costs are segregated in purely fixed and purely variable. Costs behave in a linear manner within a relevant range over a period of time. Units produced is always equals to units sold. Hence, no change in inventory. Volume is the only factor affecting variable costs. Hence, variable cost per unit is always constant. Selling price is also constant. The CVP analysis is subject to the following limiting assumption. Number one, costs are classified into variable or fixed. Linear relationship within a relevant range. Next is inventory level does not change from period to period. Volume is the only affecting variable cost. And selling price is also constant. So what is multi-product analysis? CBP analysis, the company's sales mix is viewed as a composite unit, a selection of discrete products associated together in proportion to the sales mix. The composite unit is not sold to customers but is concept used to calculate a combined contribution margin, which is then used to estimate the break-even point. In a company with multiple products, CBP analysis be extended easily to cover this. In performing CBP analysis, we use two. This is the contribution margin approach and the contribution margin ratio. The contribution margin approach is computed by deducting all variable costs from revenues, where the contribution margin ratio is the difference between company sales and variables expressed as a percentage, is the contribution margin per unit divided by the selling price. I will be explaining this with the this contribution margin approach and contribution margin ratio on the next slides. So we have a sample problem here. For example, we have a JFJ shop. So we would assume that the JFJ shop can purchase pants for $32 from a local factory. Other variable costs amount to $10 per unit. So the local factories allows the JFJ shop to return all unsold pants and receive a full $32 refund per pair of pants within 1 year. The average selling price per pair of pants is $70. and total fixed cost amount to $84,000. So, number one question is, how much revenue will the business receive if 2,500 units are sold? So, the answer with this is, since 2,500 units, they would be multiplied by 70, since the average selling price per pair of the pants is $70. So it would total of $175,000 if uh, 2,500 units are sold. Okay. So number two, the question is, how much variable cost will the business incur? So we need to understand what is variable cost. Variable costs, example of this were transportation, utility cost, manpower cost. Then the answer with this on variable cost is 2,500 times $42, which is equals to $105,000. So variable cost is $42 since JFJ shop purchased the parts for $32 and added with $10 per unit. So it means that the variable cost would be 42. So times 2,500, the incurred the business will incur $105 variable cost. We would know that from for a year for 1 year operations, we would get the total sales from the business, which is the revenue of $175,000. We would subtract the $105,000, the expenses, and also the 84,000, which is the total fixed cost in 1 year. So when we subtract the revenue with all the expenses, the total is negative $14,000. So from this point of view, if you are the business owner, you would see that you did not earn a profit with this kind of setup. So if you are going only to sold 2,500 units, you are not making any profit with this business. Then next question is, what is the contribution margin per unit? So contribution margin per unit, as per the formula, it's $70. It's the price of the product minus the $42, which is the variable cost, total variable cost. So this would equals to $28. So the contribution margin per unit is $28. Next is, what is the total contribution margin when 2,500 pairs of pants are sold. So with the formula, with the formula, so 2,500, we would multiply it by 28, since this is the contribution margin per unit. The total contribution margin is $70,000. So to get the contribution margin percentage, $28 divided by $70, which is the 40%. Meaning that $28, the 40% from the from the price that the JFJ shop get each pair of pants from the local factory with a total of $42, and they are selling it for $70, they are having a profit or contribution margin percentage of 40% for each pants. Then with this, what if the business sells 3,000 pairs of pants? Then revenues will be $210,000, and contribution margin would equal 40% times $210,000. It is equals to 84,000. So this is the break-even point. So Next question is, why would managers be interested in the break-even point? Well, let's define first what is break-even point. Break-even point refers to the level of activities or sales that will yield to zero profit. In other words, it is the level at which the business makes no gain or loss. So in layman's term, whatever is your capital in your business, then you sell your products, your sales is equals to your capital. So meaning you have no income, no gain, and at the same time no loss. Maybe only tiredness or effort is being, or your time, maybe some of your time will deprived from you, effort. But on business perspective, you are break even means based on your sales, it is only equal to your income, or rather your income is equals to your capital. Okay, so break even formula. So break even point can be determined in terms of numbers or units or dollar amount. So the formula for break-even point in units is total fixed cost divided by the CM per unit. So based from our computation on the previous slide, the total fixed cost is $84,000 divided by $28, which is our CM per unit. So it would equals to 3,000 units. So what this formula tells us? So which means we have to reach or sell 3,000 units of pants for us to reach the break-even point. So at this point, when we sold 3,000 units or 3,000 pairs of pants, we are on our break-even point. No gain, but our capital is already returned. Okay. In computing for and also in computing for the break-even point in dollars or whatever your currency is, contribution margin ratio is used instead of contribution margin per unit. So formula is break-even point in dollars is equals to total fixed cost divided by the cost margin ratio. So the total fixed cost in our example is the $84,000. So we divide it by 40%. So our cost margin ratio is 40%. It would equal to 210. Equation method. So in equation method, for us to better understand how the break-even point is, so the formula would be the selling price times the quantity sold minus the variable cost times the quantity sold and minus fixed cost. So equals to operating income. Okay, so on our JFJ shop sample problem, for example, let Y be the number of units to be sold to break even. So we are going to compute how many units or pairs for us to produce to reach break even point. So for example, with this, so we have $70 dollar Y minus $42 Y. So this $70 Y, as explained, the $70 Y is the $70 is the average selling price per pair of pants. Okay, just a refresher. Then the $42 is the total variable unit cost per unit, which is $42 because they are getting the pants for $32 plus 10 variable cost, which equals to 42. And then we will minus it with the fixed cost. So the fixed cost is 84,000. So equals to 0. Okay. So 70y minus 42y is equals to 28y. So we would equal it, we will transfer the 84,000 the other side. So from negative, it will be positive. Then, of course, by cross multiplication, so y is equals to 84. Then we will make it as the denominator, 84 being the numerator. So we'll transfer this the 28 into as a denominator. So by cross multiplication, y is equals to 84,000 divided by $28. So it would equal to y is equals to 3,000 units. So we just show how to compute for the break-even point. As managers, we tend to know what are the what certain um, number of products to be sold for us to reach the break-even point. So somehow it helps us to decide on whether if it's feasible on a manufacturing view, on a customer's perspective view. You can also estimate it based on your daily output, daily sales. So by this, you can estimate if 3,000 units is feasible. You are targeting to sell 3,000 units, of course, in less than a year, because if you will target 3,000 units in a year, you will not gain anything because of the cost, the variable cost and the fixed cost. So basically, you will target it for, let's say, 6 months, 5 months, and after that, on the seventh month upwards, those are the incomes. The next is the we will show it the we will show the graph method for the break even point. So as we can see, on the y-axis we have the price. Then on the x-axis we have the units, on how many units to be produced. Okay. With this, we plotted the 3,000 based on our result here. Total fixed cost in units, we produce 3,000. Then it is in $210,000 the break-even point with its amount, the amount of break-even point with this 3,000 units. So from this, we will plot 90 degrees, the 3,000. This is the price. Then the 210,000, plot it also. And at the point where they met on the graph, it is the break-even period. So we see here that the fixed cost is parallel. It's not going up or down because it is fixed cost. The only thing that we see here, the total cost, we can interpret it that when we produce, the more we produce or the more we sell pair of pants, this the total cost also increases. And also, of course, as well, after the break-even point, revenue will start to accumulate. It's okay if we have the total cost um, increasing as long as our revenue, it is as long as it is compensated by the revenue generated. Then, of course, after the break even, we would target an income, or we will have a target profit or the operating income. So one of the helpful uses of cost volume profit analysis is the determination of the sales required to generate a target profit income. We need to calculate the number of units to sell in order to generate a desired level of profit. This can be achieved by tweaking the break-even formula and incorporating the desired profit. So, with this, we will compute. We will compute for the target profit. So we are the one who will set the profit, the target profit that we will achieve. So with this, the in target profit or operating income, the formula is the target sales per unit. So it will be equal to total fixed cost plus target income, which is divided by the CM per unit or the target sales in dollars or whatever currency. So it's total fixed cost plus target income divided by CM ratio. So as an example, on our JFJ shop sample problem, assume that management wants to have an operating income of $14,000. How many pairs of pants must be sold? So, as discussed in break-even point, uh, when we reach the, I'm sorry for the dollar sign. So, when we reach the, it's 3,500 units, correction. So, our break even pairs or units is around 3,000. So from 3,001 upwards, we are starting to accumulate an income. Okay, so but how many pairs of pants must be sold for us to achieve our target of $14,000? So we could solve this with this formula. Okay, total sales unit equals total fixed cost plus target income divided by CM per unit, which the total fixed cost is 84,000 as discussed earlier. Target income, we set this, which is the $14,000, and we divide it with $28. So this is the cost margin per unit, $28. Okay. So it would equals to 3,500 pairs of pants. So meaning for us to achieve a $14,000 profit, we need to sell 3,500 pairs of pants. Then next question is of course what dollar sales are needed to achieve this income. So answer would be with this formula. So $84,000, the total fixed cost. Target income which we set $14,000, we divide it by 40% RCM ratio, which we discussed also earlier. So, this 3,500 sales, it's equivalent to 245,000. Sorry, it's lacking zero. $245,000. On that $245,000 less the cost, we would get $14,000 income. So that's how we set a target profit or operating income. Next, we go to the operating leverage. On operating leverage, it describes that the effects that the fixed costs have on changes in operating income as changes occurs in unit sold and hence in cost margin. So it simply states that when high fixed cost, there is also a high operating leverage. Okay. High operating leverage means small changes in sales will lead to large changes in operating income. So which means high sales, whenever you have high sales, operating income increases relatively more. And on low sales, operating income decline relatively more, leading to a greater greater risk in losses. Of course, if you are not having good sales, of course your operating income will decline and you will have a great risk of bankruptcy because your cost is not being compensated by profit. So this, in layman's term, that's how we explain this. Then there is the degree of operating leverage. The degree of operating leverage measures the how sensitive operating income or EBIT is to change in sales revenue. It basically answers the question, by how many times will operating profit increase or decrease in relation to the increase or decrease in sale? Okay. Um, we will we will expound the definition on the next slide. So simply, the formula with a degree of operating leverage is the CM divided by the OI. So CM's cost margin divided by the operating income. And B, DOL is equals to percent change in OI, percent divided by percent change in sales. So to further understand the operating leverage, the degree of operating leverage is equals to the contribution margin divided by the operating income. So, based on our problem, what is the degree of operating leverage of the pawn shop at 3,500 sales level under both arrangement? So, we said that the existing arrangement, since we have targeted already $14,000 target profit, so the existing arrangement is that 3,500 times $28, which is uh, the CM. So it would equals to 98,000 contribution margin. Okay, so the existing arrangement would be 98,000 contribution margin. Okay, so on the 98,000 contribution margin, based on the formula, okay, on the formula, 98,000 contribution margin minus 84,000 minus the fixed cost equals to operating income. So with this 98,000 uh, divided by 14,000 is equals to 7. Okay? So new arrangement is 3,500 times 35. So why 35? Because our RCM is 28. And based on this formula, 7, so 28 plus 7 is equals to 35. So you would have a new contribution margin of 35. So you are now visualizing the operating leverage of your business with this formula. So it equals to 7. So your new contribution margin is 122,500 from which previously 98,000 contribution margin. So for you to get the operating leverage 7, so the contribution margin will be 122,500. So previously it's $28 per unit and it became $35 per unit. So 28 plus 7 is equals to 35. Okay. So um on the degree of operating leverage, with the formula of DOL is equals to contribution margin divided by operating income. So with the new setup of 122,500 divided by the 14,000 operating income. So the degree of operating leverage is 8.75. The degree of operating leverage at a given level of sales help managers calculate the effect of fluctuation in sales on operating income. Okay. So, which means that even if sales increase, fixed costs do not change. Of course, it will not change because it's fixed, hence causing a larger change in operating income. So this goes the same for decrease in sales. If sales revenue decrease, operating income will decrease at a much larger rate. Okay. So for us to understand better, as example, so a 10% increase in sale, in this example, we have, for example, a degree of operating leverage of 3. So meaning times 3. So a 10% increase in sales will result in a 30% increase in operating income. Okay. At 20% in sales, again, and degree of operating leverage of 3 as a sample. So if you have a 20% increase in sales, since you have a degree of operating leverage of 3, it will result in a 60% increase in operating income. Consequently, it also applies to decreases. So if you have a 15% decrease in your sale, it would also result to a 45% decrease in operating income. So you will have a realization on as a manager what will be the effect of certain percent of increase in sales and a certain percent of decrease in sales, and it will be dictated by the degree of operating leverage. Okay, let's go with the limitation of CVP analysis. CVP analysis suffers from a limitation that it does not include adjustment for risk and uncertainty. So, of course, it could not include the uncertainties and risk which are uncontrollable. Next is the contribution itself is not a guide if there is some key or limiting factor. And lastly, decisions of the sales staff and marketing personnel may lead to low profit or loss. Thank you.